Hi, today I'll teach you this SpaceX tutorial. It's advanced level, so beginners might find it confusing. I won't be covering basics. All right, let's create a new file. Draw a circle, give it my desired color, set the size to 60 by 60 pixels, and rename it to inner ellipse. Next, our task is to create a segment between two ellipses. Actually, we want to build this part of the spaceship. To do this, we create a group here and snap it to the top of the circle. Then we group it again and move its anchor point to the center by pressing Y on the keyboard. We duplicate the group and set the rotation of the new group to 45 degrees. Now, we delete the groups that we had created for snapping. Then, we group these together and name the group inner group. We duplicate it and name it outer group, placing it below the inner group. Then, we scale it up to 3 times its size and change its color. Activate the pen tool and connect the created groups with points. We need to accurately match the curvature of the ellipse. To do this, change the point mode to detached. Move the incoming Bezier handle to 0. Do the same for of the second point and adjust the other Beziers. To set per size values, select inner ellipse and switch to Edit Path mode. To find the exact Bezier values at this point, place the additional point in the desired location using the pen tool. The ellipse shape has not changed. Copy the values, select the segment, and switch to Edit Path mode, and paste the angle and distance values for the Bezier. Similarly, copy the values of the other points. Return to the segment and paste the values. Move on to the top points and paste the same values but multiple by 3. This way, we achieve the exact shape of the segment. Change the segment color. Group it and rename it to Inner Shape 1 and move the origin to the center of the ellipse. Create 7 copies with 45-degree difference from each other. Group all shapes and rename it to Inner Shapes. Group again and rename it to Design. Now we can delete these axillary groups. Create a control bone and place it in the center. Rename it to In Control and move it inside the inner group. Duplicate it and rename to Out Control and move it inside the Out group. Now let's bind the created segments to the two control bones. Select In Shape 1 and activate Bind Bones. Select In and Out Controls. Points closer to the center should bind In Control, and upper points should be bind to Out Control. Repeat this process for the other In Shapes. Check the bone values and check the result. Group Inner Group and rename it to In Angle. Do the same for the Out group. Group them and rename to the controls. Select Out Angle and link the scale property to the In Angle. This allows us to control Out Angle using an angle. Also, by changing position Y for an angle, we create depth. Let's try another shades of blue for the segment and see how it looks. It seems the previous one was better. Group Design and Controls and rename it to the root. Okay, now we want to build this part of the spaceship. To save time, I've already prepared these. It's not difficult at all. I created all of them here, just like in Figma or other vector-based tools. I'll assemble these shapes like the sample. It might not be exactly the same though. Let's move on to the animation. I'll create a new timeline and name it UFOX because it's going to move along the x-axis. I'll move its origin upwards. Select the root shape and add a keyframe to its rotation. I set it at 20, 0, and -20. Okay, we find the in and out controls and create a new timeline with them, naming it spin. Then we create a rotation animation. We set the rotation to 0 degrees at the start and 45 degrees at the end. Then loop the animation. Now we need to animate these shapes we used to create the fire effect. I'll show you an example of how to do it. We go inside its path and at the start, set a keyframe for all vertices. Then we move forward a bit, change the shape as desired, and set several keyframes like this to make the animation look more like a fire flame. We loop it, and as you can see, we've managed to create the spaceship flame effect to some extent. Now we need to animate these small particles. I can't animate all of them in the video, so I'll do one as an example. Create a new timeline for it. Selected one as an example and added a keyframe to its position. You can set any keyframes you want. Just like the previous animation, we try to give it random movements. There's an extra point here. I delete it. We slow down the movement a bit. We select all the keyframes and apply this option to make the movement smoother. Now we animate these lights to make them blink. We create a timeline for them. From this section, we add keyframes to the opacity and loop it. We do the same for the other ones as well. To make sure they don't blink at the same time, we shift the time frames. Now for each of the timelines we created earlier, we make a layer so they play in sequence. Assuming you already know this, I won't go into the details. We drag each of the timelines here one by one and connect them to the entry with an arrow. Okay, we want the spaceship to move left and right with the mouse movement, but right now, it's not doing that. To do this, we add a joystick and scale it up to match the size of our screen. It's better to make it invisible. Now here we select the UFOX that we created earlier, and we need a mouse tracker. We create this circle, group it, and name it Cursor Follow. Group it again and rename it to Cursor Follow Group. Now we scale our shape to the size of our screen so that it works wherever the mouse moves. For the handle source of the joystick, we assign the Cursor Follow group, create a listener for it, and select the Pointer Move option. Okay, we also set the Align target and select the Cursor Follow group again as the target. Now the joystick works well, but the rotational movement of the segments isn't smooth. Here we set it to linear mode. As you can see, it works completely smoothly. The main goal of this video was to teach spaceship rotation and mouse movement with the joystick. But at the end of the video, we also have a switch from light to dark mode. If you want, I can make a separate tutorial for that as well. We create a separate artboard for the switch and move the previous one into it using nested artboards. Then we make separate timelines for dark and light modes, with a separate layer for each action. Basically, by setting the Go Invisible button as a listener, we switch between light and dark modes. I'll explain this part in more detail later. Thanks for watching this tutorial. See you in the next video.